an update on the Charlie Kirk huge psyop that's going on, and I mean, his whole TPUSA has been a huge psyop, obviously, to support Israel and the things that they do. It's a massive moneymaker. I've said this at various times. That's quite obvious. I mean, it doesn't need much explanation, I think, to most people. Um, I stayed in the same resort hotel as TPUSA during the elections in Arizona because I was out there. I flew in from Asia to look at the midterms, and I went to Maricopa County because I thought Maricopa would be the one place that they might steal something in the open. And it actually was true. I mean, it was amazing. I was there. You can see the things that I was publishing at the time. And TPUSA stayed at the same hotel. Same resort. What was the name of it was like a golf resort, and so at nighttime, my room was very close to the bar on the first floor, and I mean like very close, like 30 seconds walk or something, and 30 seconds or a minute. I would say about 30 seconds. It was very close. I remember, and the Turning Point USA people some of them were there. They were extremely drunk. I mean, like staggering drunk. I messaged to Bannon and others. I'm like, what's going on? Who are these people? I thought these people were supposed to be good Christian people, and here they are, literally staggering drunk. I was told later some of them were fired for that. I don't know what happened from that. I don't know. They were aggressive towards me, and there you go. I never looked at them the same again. I was suspect to begin with, but when I saw that, okay, that was over the top. My gut instinct on what has happened was, TPUSA is clearly a psyop in and of itself, period, full stop, in my view, right? I know a lot of people that support me are totally bought into TPUSA. I get it. I understand. I'm giving you my raw sense about what's going on. And that TPUSA was obvious, like nakedly obviously a psyop, right? And they were supported by Zionists to support Zionist causes. I think Charlie Kirk actually, honestly, organically went off the reservation. In other words, he was talking bad about a lot of the things that Zionists have been doing and that Israel has been doing. I think he actually really did go off the reservation. Of course, that could be a psyop too. We just never know, right? Because these are actors and they are very good at it, but they're not perfect, right? And they do have glitches in the matrix where we can see through. And now his shooting, I got it on a private chat. I got up to work at about 3 a.m, and there were messages coming in that he had been shot. I looked at one of the videos and I said, if that's real, and I said something like, if that's real, of course, before I saw him hit the ground, I'm already suspicious automatically. I'm not coming into this with any I accept what I see on the screen attitude. I've been around too long, as most of us have who would follow my work. We're in a state of war. The highest weapon in that war is information war. And we're talking about people who run Hollywood, right? We're talking about people who do big stuff. They know how to do every sort of special effect, right? And they have control, effective control, operational control over key parts of the government. And so this is easy easily could have been killed, and they would do this. This is a game of pawns. And because if he were honestly off the reservation, I would expect him to be killed because Charlie Kirk was gaining political influence and power, and he would be worth more as a martyr than he would be as a growing opposition, right? So you could easily see where that would have means and motive are there, right, to do this thing. Now whether or not he's actually that was a fake blood or whatever, and he's off on some island, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But I watched the video last night where it looks like his ring changes fingers and that sort of thing. I don't know because I don't know who made that video either, right? So we have layers of ghost in the machine here. And so we don't know what's real, but we know We know what's not real sometimes, and there's clear some unreality here. For instance, that the rifle may have been taken apart and that sort of thing. There's obviously, like with the Trump so-called assassination with the bullet trace. Keep in mind, I have a lot of combat experience in combat photography and videography. I'm actually shooting this video on the same camera that was used at the Trump rally when the bullet trace was caught that got the Pulitzer. I think that got a Pulitzer, right? That I'm actually shooting with that camera right now. I'm very familiar with it. I've shot with that camera for years. It's a Sony Alpha 1. And I could tell right off the bat, that's wrong. Something's wrong. And if something is that wrong, obviously we can't trust anything else at all, period. They broke down the stage. They destroyed the evidence. They hosed off the roof. Everything was a perfect wrap, right? And Trump's like, no, we're not going to investigate it further. It doesn't make any sense unless you demand that they give you a show that you can believe, right? And that's kayfabe. That's right out of wrestling. It's literally right out of wrestling. It's kayfabe. You have to give them a show that the audience wants to believe that it's real. So you have to give them a sufficiently realistic show that they can go ahead and go along on the dance. And that's what's happening right now. Is Charlie Kirk dead or alive? I don't know. Is there something wrong with that whole event? Absolutely. I just watched I'm looking at a note here. I just watched the video that his wife put out, and that feels off. It feels way off. Now, you can't come out and say, and I've been through this a lot. I've written 3 books on Chinese information war. And the moment you come out and you say that doesn't look right about somebody who's claiming victimhood, or is a victim sometimes, you will be attacked. That's just the nature of this. So what I'm saying now will cause attack. I get it, right? And but I have people that support me and depend on me to be accurate and truthful to the best of my abilities. And to the best of my abilities, that video that she made, Eric, his husband, his wife, it just doesn't look off. She has the gold Trump 47 hat on the desk beside her, and the little bear and all that. You know, listen, Trump with this gold, the 47 is actually in gold. Trump is all bling. He's blinged out the White House. If he were at a different class of people and grew up in the hood, he would have gold teeth and be wearing big gold necklaces, right? That's the kind of person he is. Now, I see people all the time very concerned, will the U.S. government take my gold, right? And they've done it before, right? And Trump works for people who absolutely will take your gold, right? There is no question about whether or not they will. The U.S. government's done it before. And Trump is he'll take your gold, and so will the Zionists. Like, no question about it. Where's the gold in Fort Knox? If they'll take that gold, they took your gold already, right? And they'll take the rest of it. Now, with the talk that Charlie Kirk's wife gave, I believe her name's Erica Kirk or Eric Kirk, or whatever. And so, I don't follow them, right? As you can tell. And I did not feel right looking at that video. I sent it out to a few people that are messaging me just before I went live, and everybody said the same thing. It feels very off. It's like an infomercial for TPUSA. And my memories of TPUSA from Arizona were not fond. I did not like what I saw. I saw members of TPUSA drunk out of their minds, literally staggering, right? And so while the elections were still being counted, right? And I said to some of them, I said, why are you at the bar drinking when this thing is not settled yet? The fact that I came in from Asia to Arizona to that hotel should tell you what I thought about how important that place was, right? I flew all the way from Asia to be at that hotel and at the elections. I went to a couple of the election sites, and there was something wrong with the booth. There were the machines weren't working and that sort of thing. And I went to 2 of the polling places, And then Ann Vandersteel flew in from Florida. As soon as Ann knew something was wrong, like I messaged to Ann, I said, something's wrong with this. You should get here. She like dropped everything she was doing and flew straight to Arizona. That's what kind of person Ann Vandersteel is. She like, I mean, she must have left the front door open. You know what I mean? And ended up in Arizona, and she saw it too. And they had those robot cars driving around. Those, what are they called, Waymo or whatever they're called. And it was truly creepy. And those cars were clearly circling us like fish, and obviously would be gathering up our phone data and everything else, and photos and the whole works. You get it. And something's clearly wrong. Something's clearly wrong. What actually happened, I don't know, other than it's a psyop, right? And we know who runs the huge amount of these psyops. October 7th, the massacre of the Israelis was clearly, obviously an Israeli. That was a Zionist psyop. We can see that. It's amazingly obvious, right? And likewise with the Trump bullet trace and all this, obvious psyop, right? And this one obviously is a psyop. My question is whether or not Charlie Kirk is actually dead or not. I don't know. But on my when I woke up at 3 a.m. to work and I saw I looked at the video, and my immediate response off channel and not public was that if that video is legitimate, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Because, I've seen a lot of people shot right by me, shot in the face, shot all over the place, right? And anything like that much blood, you're gone. Now, is that legit? I don't know, because we're talking about people who run Hollywood, right? And so I just don't know. At the end of the day, I'm highly suspect. It's clear that we're in a massive war. We're not talking about for money. Money is for the mid-level people and the low-level people like us, right? Money is, but the people we're talking about, they don't need money. They own the printing press, right? They can print digits. They need $1 trillion. There you go, right? It's no problem. It's fiat. You can see the same thing is going on with the Bitcoin. It's a massive, massive scam. And yet there are people in the cult. Keep in mind, I studied cults for years. I lived with a cult in California. It took me a while to get in with them, and then I lived with them. I was watching how they're doing this stuff. It's all cult stuff. It's huge cult stuff. Keep in mind, there's various cults that are being controlled now by a larger master. And of course, Trump is not the highest level management. He is a salesman. He's there to sell these things. Charlie Kirk was there to sell these things. And I think, this is my gut instinct, Charlie Kirk actually honestly went off the reservation, and that cost him his life. That's what I think. But is that true? Is he really dead? I don't know. First principles. We have to go back to what we actually know as a first principle. And what we actually know is something happened, and there is video depicting what is almost certainly Charlie Kirk being shot, and or maybe being shot like the Trump thing, because that bullet trace was fake. No question about it. And when the Trump, so-called assassination attempt. And October 7th clearly was a staked goat, what's called a staked goat, and a green flagged attack. It wasn't a false flag. It was a green flag. A green flag is when you know it's coming, like Pearl Harbor. We knew Pearl Harbor was coming. The United States tried a great deal to provoke Japanese to attack us. This is all well known, by the way. This isn't conspiracy theory. Any serious historian knows this. They could expound on it for days, right? It was a staked goat in Pearl Harbor. We had our many people ask why when there was a newspaper article, headline news 7 days before, in the Honolulu Advertiser, Japanese may attack over the weekend. 7 days before. I put it on Twitter yesterday, right? I published that thing. The first time I published that was probably 10 years ago. And people are like, oh, you got a good Photoshop. And no. That was actually the headline 7 days before. If you're in Honolulu, go to the microfiche for Honolulu Advertiser. You'll see you can find it online. You can probably buy an old copy of it. It might be expensive, but it says the Japanese may attack over the weekend, and the next weekend, boom, attacked, right? And you see that was December 7th, obviously, and then over the next month or two, there were a lot of Americans going, wait a minute, this was in that Hawaiian newspaper. Americans were very upset because the president came up and said this was, a surprise and deliberate attack by the Japanese. And a lot of Americans were like, no, this wasn't a surprise. And why were our ships there? Why were our ships there at the dock waiting to be destroyed, right? When they easily could have sailed out with very short notice. And you had at least 7 days notice, headline news, right? And because that was what's called a staked goat. Staked goat is an old tactic in war. It's a war. It's a tactic where an information war, where or when you're hunting, actually, like one hunter down in the Darien Gap, he's an Imbra Indian. I went into his village a couple of years ago, and he had a jaguar skull. He had just killed a jaguar. And how did he do it? He staked a pig next to the river, and he waited on a moonless night for the jaguar to come for the pig, and then he shot the jaguar. And it was a staked pig attack, right? And the Pashtun people in Afghanistan have been known to do staked women attacks. They'll either dress a man up as a woman or an old woman that they want to get rid of, and they would stake her up with weapons beside her and that sort of thing, and dressed as a man, and not dressed as a woman, but dressed as a man, and they would get people to attack, and that was their false flag, or not false flag. It was a staked goat. And they were trying to use that for information war, is what I'm getting to. So this is an old tactic. It's been used around the world, both staked goat and green flag and false flag, right? And they just happen all the time. The October 7th was a clear staked goat. They had the party right there. People in the right there where the Hamas could go get them. Israel, the Zionists, need those prisoners because that's your casus belli to go ahead and do the genocide, right? Now, keep in mind, in the 1800s, the United States, there's a whole genre and I've got many of these original books from the 1800s, and it's a whole genre of the massacres, basically it's atrocity porn is the modern name of it, atrocity porn. There was a whole genre of atrocity porn in the 1800s, and even it kept going into the 1900s, so that we would have casus belli to keep clearing the Indians off their land, right? We used unrestricted warfare on the Indians. A lot of Americans who know about the Unrestricted Warfare book written by the two Chinese colonels, I read the book. It's a very interesting book, but they kind of get this idea that unrestricted warfare is something new. Oh no, unrestricted warfare is an art form, and it's been going on, again, long before any of our great-grandparents were born. Unrestricted warfare was a thing, right? High-level psychological operations, high-level use of intoxicants, alcohol we used on the Indians a lot, firewater here in Thailand. Chinese would use opium a lot, and opium. Chinese always blame they blame the British. We're victims of the British opium, and as their reason to do everything. But the Chinese have been using opium long before that. Chinese were also included in the people that were selling opium to Chinese, and they continued to do it back after the British were gone, and they still do it today. Right? Professional victims are always predators, in my experience. And that goes for individuals, that goes for families that are professional victims, and that goes for tribes, and that goes for cultures on the larger scale. Professional victims are always predators. They'll do anything. Especially when you make a cult out of the professional victimhood. And so now they're making Charlie Kirk into a martyr. It's perfect when you look at this from an information perspective, because you can take somebody who appeared to have been going actually off the reservation, as we used to say, what Americans would say about Indians, going off the reservations. The Apaches have gone off the reservation, and of course we put them on the reservation. And then you have to send in the army to push them back to the reservation. And again, the whole genre of white women kidnapped, the Oatman women or whatever, all this stuff. There's so many of these books and so many stories. It's literally a stack that high, right? And more. And so that's what's happening now. And the what I think what we're seeing is, this is my gut instinct. Obviously, it could be wrong. My gut instinct is that, well, I mean, it's very obvious that he was lifted up to sell Israel and whatever they're going to do. Of course, Israel is just a pawn for the Zionists. Israel is not there. That's another square on the chessboard, right? It's not the genesis of all things, right, at all. And many of the Zionists actually are Christians, right? Many of the Zionists are actually Jews. Many are atheists, and some are actually Muslims, right? And like many Kurds are Zionists. They're not in the top leadership of the Zionists, but they're, in the support base. Some are, and so what I'm getting to is that I think, well, it's clear that Charlie Kirk was part of the information op. I've been saying that for a long time. And that I think he actually really honestly did go off the reservation for whatever reason. I think I'm just taking I'm taking a guess here, an informed guess, but a guess, a hypothesis that Charlie Kirk had his own political aspirations, and that he was feeling his oats, and that he could go and herd up his own herd. I mean, he was getting significant political power, right? And then he starts standing up. He may have sensed that the mood is turning against what's happening. Even among many Christian Zionists, the mood is turning against the Zionists, and it's turning against Israel deeply. And Charlie Kirk clearly sensed that, because he would say it, right? He would say it clearly, very clear terms. He would speak clearly. And one great thing about Charlie Kirk is he spoke in clear terms, right? He didn't leave a lot of ambiguous words on the table, and he clearly could see something was going off. And he may have had, this is my hypothesis, that he had his own political aspirations, and that he was going for it. He went off the reservation, and they shot him. That may have been what happened. And now he'll be replaced by somebody else, which could be obviously his wife. And then, of course, people will shake their fingers. You can't say that. They always do the finger shake thing, or how dare you, that sort of stuff, right? And but the thing is we are in a state of war, and we don't have time for sentimental to be sentimental about every aspect. We have to always be scanning our lanes in the battlefield, because we're on it, and we are the target. We are the target. We are easily sacrificable. Our food supply is under attack. There's no mass deportations going on. I got a message last night from a friend in federal law enforcement inviting me actually to go along with them if I can get permission from DHS. And he said he would put in a good word. Of course, I'm kind of busy on other things, but I think that would be probably easy for me to get permission from DHS, because I know some of the top people there. But at the same time, I don't see the mass deportations going on. I just don't see them. United Nations is still completely intact. IOM is still completely intact. They're attacking Thailand here, right? They're attacking Thailand with drugs, just like Trump wants to use the drugs to attack the United States. So when I see that Trump 47 hat on Charlie Kirk's wife, she gave that speech next to his desk, and I'm thinking Trump 47 pushed the jab. And again, there are people will say Fauci fooled him. This isn't for those people that still think Fauci fooled him, or that that's an acceptable reason, or that his ego is too big to admit to it. Unacceptable. Period. It's just not acceptable. He's killing millions of people, right? He's pushed the dope, right? Look at how Joe Rogan, the dope head Joe Rogan, reacted to the Charlie Kirk situation. He had a doper response. People sent it to me, and I looked at it, and Joe Rogan's like, "Oh, he's out of control," right? You can see he's trying to control himself, or it's an act. I don't know which, but it was a doper type response, not sticking to, we're in a state of war. We have to keep a clear mind about what's going on here. Emotions are often used to bait people in and ambush. It's over, right? And so there we go. I think that's about it. I wasn't shocked by what happened. Again, if you're shocked by this, a lot of people were shocked. Again, if you were shocked by what happened, take that as a teaching point. Take that as a learning point. It's a learning point because if you were shocked, you were looking at the situation with either a bad paradigm or bad information, or both, right? In other words, the way you look at this situation in the world, or our situation in the United States, which is very related to what the situation here is in Thailand and Japan and other places. But if you're shocked, then something's wrong with the way you're looking at it. So you need to keep adjusting the way you're looking at things so that you're not surprised by things. Because if you're surprised, you feel the emotion of surprise, then that's an alert. That's like God telling you, check yourself. You're not looking at the situation right, or your input information is not pure, or you don't have enough of it, or you're being scammed or something, right? So I wasn't shocked at all. In fact, some people have been thinking Charlie Kirk, when he went off the reservation, might catch a bullet or something, and there you go. Look at the 7 AFD people in Germany suddenly died just before the election. And of course, the AFD party was increasingly against Israel. It could be a coincidence. I don't know. Was it? And so, what do you think? I learn a lot by listening to what other people think, because we all have different information, different perspectives on the way to look at things. By the way, I was talking with Masako and a friend yesterday about taking long walks. Like at times when I would leave the wars, I would take very long walks up in the Himalaya mountains and other places, especially Himalaya, right? And one of the things that's very helpful to clear your mind, everybody watching this, especially my viewership, tends to be quite serious people and quite smart who watch my Substack. And so one thing I've noticed, though, with myself and with others, is that you're a lot smarter than you think, but you haven't had a chance to clean up and organize the knowledge that's already in your mind. Been very long walks. When I would do very long walks in the mountains, and you can see that photo I published before of the horse that I had that carried the Pelican case with my books and the candles, because I'd spent a lot of time out in the mountains, and I would read books at night and by candlelight, but there was no Wi-Fi or anything like that. And so you have time to think, like weeks on end. You're just walking, thinking, and at nighttime I would read. But so what I'm getting to is just the act of doing long walks. You'll see your actual intelligence will increase. You'll see it. Just go for walks every day around where you're at, and you'll just be quiet. Don't even take the phone, right? And don't do any of that, and just be quiet and walk and think. Go for good long walks until you get hungry, right? And so good long walks, as long as you're good to go with it. And start rearranging the knowledge that's already in your head. And when you do this, those long walks were very, very helpful for me to sort things out and see things that is already in your mind, but you haven't. It's like you've got a messy room with all this knowledge that you stuffed in there, like these books. And then you go for a long walk, and then you start to see the connections, and just do it. For those who've already done stuff like this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you're smarter than you think. If you do these long walks, you will organize a lot of your thoughts, and you will see things that you don't see now. And it makes me want to go for a long walk right now, like I'm talking myself into it, right? I want to go for a long walk. But if I do, you won't be seeing me on Substack for a while, because I will kind of vanish. All right. It's been 30 minutes, 29 minutes, and those are my thoughts. We don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. And if he really was killed, prayers for his family. And if he wasn't, then prayers for us. But prayers for us anyway. And so, but look at the Charlie Kirk's wife video that she put out. It was basically a TPUSA infomercial, It was an infomercial for Trump and others. And so she's very young, and she's surrounded by people that are very sophisticated, and very imposing, right? So this is no gig on her at all. I mean, she's very young and not sophisticated in the ways of these people. And so she will be used as a vessel, just like Charlie Kirk was. And then I think Charlie Kirk, like Pinocchio, wanted to become an actual boy. I mean, Charlie Kirk is like, hey, I've got my own life force and something's wrong with this. Because I think he actually did or does, well, if he's still alive, he doesn't have any moral core at all. But if he was actually just killed, and because he went off the reservation, perhaps he did have a serious moral core. Or was he going off the reservation because he had political aspirations? I don't know. I can't read his mind. I can't read his heart. But we do know that we're in the biggest Psyop ever. And psychological operations has reached an art form. And the main weapons of psychological operations are intoxicants, whether that be alcohol or cannabis or whatever. It's intoxicants, right? And dominating the airspace. And so there you go. Thank y'all. And by the way, thank everybody who supports my work. It's very expensive. It's obviously very dangerous. This is the most dangerous thing you can do. I mean, if Charlie Kirk is actually dead, it was almost certainly because he talked into this, and they didn't like it. And he's dead. And this happens all the time. Look at those AFD people who just died suddenly, 7 of them. This is normal. Happens all the time. Happens for centuries. It's a game. I mean, you're dancing in a minefield doing this stuff.
As the world watches and listens in horror, the peaceful pro-democracy demonstration in China comes to a violent and bloody end.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wolves hiding nearby, whispering do or die around me. You say your last good night while I get
There is another very important phase of warfare. It has as its target not the body, but the mind of the enemy.
The target of psychological warfare is against the enemy's mind.
It is words and ideas.
The ammunition used by Psyop.
Its mission is to influence the thoughts of the enemy soldier, and at the same time
is expected and encouraged to study foreign languages and the social sciences such as history, economics, and sociology. He must have a broad and sympathetic understanding of all phases of human experience.
gripping at my skin, the walls of night closing.
but the use of this force as an integral part of combat has now taken on new form.
As I wait to say my last goodbye.
These are the Psy War soldiers.